Sad face. But without further ado, we got up next Super Meat Boy by Fimbz, and after that we got a little special thing for you. Kind of a surprise-ish. But I'm going to pass this over to Fimbz.
You are live. Good luck.
Oh boy. I am live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Fimbz.
Wow, it's almost like you were just here. It's so crazy.
Wow. Wow, it's a whole group of lovely people that I feel like I've already been looking at, but now I'm going to look at them more, and I feel very happy.
This is now the Sparkover marathon.
Welcome. So you may have heard that I play some Dragon Warrior. Maybe I also play some Super Meat Boy. What am I even doing? But it's not about me right now. It's by Fimbz, and he's going to show us a beautiful game of how to save your girlfriend over and over.
Yeah, so I want to say a few things before I start. That actually is kind of related. It's not going to look very beautiful. I play on ultra low detail mode when I run, so if it looks like garbage, it's because it's meant to. It saves me a little bit in load times, and it also hides some scenery that appears in the foreground, and it makes it a little easier to see the geometry. A couple other things about the run is that this game is very particular, so if you've ever played this game and had like hardware issues, it's probably because it needs to be at exactly 60 FPS all the time. Otherwise the physics is bad. So we use a program to cap it and hold it there, and then I also have a program running to skip. There are replays at the end of each level that don't really do anything for the run, so we bind keys to them to skip them faster. But I think that's everything about the setup. We're good to go, right? I assume we are.
Yes, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I am obviously.
Yeah, you can start whenever.
All right,
what
cool.
things are.
All right, so yeah, I guess we'll just kind of sound. We'll get going. I'm gonna start in 3, 2, 1, go. So this is Super Meat Boy. I assume most people in the chat have played this game at some point or another. Super fast-paced precision platformer game. It's very slidey, and you don't stop very quickly, but it's really good. So right there, I'm going to do it a couple times in the run, but mostly you'll see me pause and then unpause really quickly sometimes. Basically what that does, it tricks the game into thinking that we're pressing jump every single frame, and we're really not. And that just helps me climb really fast in some places, and also to nail some jumps that have kind of tight timing. But that's really about the only glitch you'll see in the run. We'll chain some other things with that to get some cooler tech going, but for now that's really the only thing that the only kind of glitch or exploit that the run really has. So right there I did one, and that one's kind of tricky because not only is it an auto jump, but I also have to make sure that I get storage from the ground on the level before that. So the way that works is when you finish a level or you die, the game stores Meat Boy's state, and if you're on the ground or on a wall, you can abuse that when you respawn by auto jumping or just getting a really precise jump, and you'll keep that state and jump off of a wall or a floor that doesn't exist, which is pretty rad. So the first world's basically already done. We just have an auto scroller boss here, and then that'll be the end of Forest. I've been speedrunning this game on and off for, I want to say, like the past 3 years or so, maybe longer. It's a pretty good game, not that hard to get into. If you've seen the leaderboards, you know that there are a ton of runs for this game. I think there's almost about 500 now, so pretty easy to get into. Hard to master, but it's very friendly for beginners. So that boss is really nothing to it. You can't make it go any faster than it already is, so you just get to the end without dying, and you're golden. So the second world is going to be the hospital. There are some mechanics introduced here that are not the greatest your first time through, mainly being the fans. The fans will like propel you upward from, you know, wherever they are. You'll see them here in a second. And they're kind of tricky because there's no really clear indicator of how far you're going to go when you get into one, so it's a little tricky to master them, but they're not too terrible. So right here is a fan. Bunch of them, actually. But a lot about this, that was weird. I just got a little bit of a right there, my FPS dipped a little bit, and this is really awkward. I'm just gonna restart this level. My frames dipped a little bit there for some reason, and it caused my physics to be a little weird, and I didn't make that jump across. I think that sometimes my computer just is a little slow, and that happens, but it's not a big deal.
This game also does have a bit of a reputation, though, for like if anything goes wrong, like if anything happens on your computer, the game will maybe just like freeze up or run a little slower. It can be a little bit tiresome for speed running, but you learn to work with it if you have to.
Yeah, I did run this game 2 SGDQs ago, not this last one, but the one before that, and I did have quite a few hardware issues during my run. But it's pretty known for that, but it's not too bad. Usually when you run it on your own computer, it's not bad, but here we are. So we also get a mechanic here, these keys and these key blocks. Basically, there are keys throughout some levels, and they're tied to certain chains of blocks that will unlock after you get the key. So that gimmick is introduced here, and it's used a lot. Mostly, they're blocking off certain things. Like there, you can't actually finish the level without getting that key. Sometimes there are optional keys, but most of the time the ones you are getting are required. Usually there aren't too many optional ones is what I was trying to say, actually. Better way to say that. There we go. That was an awkward cycle. That was a little tight, but oh well. So here is probably the best example of storage and auto jumping. You'll see it. We use it here to skip a cycle. And it looks really funny. Also sounds funny. My frames dripped a little bit there. So that is World 2. We just got to do the boss now. There's a little bit of a skip here. I'm going to chain a couple things together. But basically, I'm going to beat this cycle at the top here and abuse the fact that I can go off screen a little bit without dying. Grab a key before he has a chance to stop. And then we are going to use an auto jump to get this key block jump. And we're going to skip to the last part. There we go. There's a lot all at once, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a little tricky to learn, but it does save you a lot of time not having to wait for the screen to just continuously stop and go, and follow up with you. So it's a good one, good skip to learn.
So the factory introduces another kind of weird gimmick. You won't see it right away, but there will be conveyor belts in this world that they all travel in a certain direction. If you're traveling in that direction, you get a speed boost, obviously, but if you're not, it'll be slower for you. The horizontal ones don't really matter that much, but the vertical ones are a little bit busted. The vertical ones, most of the time they're going up. You don't see that many that are going down, I don't think, especially not in the light world. But you can abuse the vertical ones because if you jump into them while they're going up, you get like a tremendous speed boost and you can get to pretty busted heights, like right here. I'm going to skip a lot of platforming just by jumping into these. So this next level, I'm going to try to do a skip here by getting a precise positioning on this conveyor. Nice, I got it. And I can skip a bunch of platforming that way too. We do an auto jump there just to make sure I get that jump because you can land kind of lower on that platform and miss. There are also heat-seeking missiles, and they're kind of annoying casually, but when you start speedrunning, they're really not that bad. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I clipped on that block and didn't make it. Not a big deal. Another thing that, for people who haven't run the game before or aren't familiar, you won't be able to notice it probably, but I'm doing something a lot of times when I'm climbing up a single vertical wall called sprint jumping. Basically, I'm always sprinting when I'm moving most of the time because it's just faster, obviously. But when you jump off a wall, it's... Oh, whoops, I should have backed out there. It's not fast to just keep sprinting because then it takes you longer to get back to the wall. So if you release sprint right after you jump and then hold it after a certain time, you'll come back to the wall faster, which will allow you to climb faster. And so we do that in a lot of places. Kind of a tight cycle here. Got it. This next level is a tricky skip. Basically, I'm going to get some precise positioning chained with an auto jump and skip a cycle with this platform. No, I didn't get it. Whoops. Try it one more time. I think I was a little too low. There we go. This skip is a little hard. Let's see if I can get it here. No, a little late. Basically, you can chain an auto jump there on those key blocks, and there's a hole in the ceiling you can get through. It's actually really tricky. It's one of the bigger skips in 90% actually, though, once you learn it. It saves about 6 seconds. And this game is pretty optimized at high levels, so it's a lot of time. That's going to be the end of that world. We just got to do the boss here. This boss intended to be a race, but you can kind of just do this. Whoops, fuck that up. There we go. You can do a sprint jump around that corner and just kind of get outside the level. Not really a glitch, just an oversight on the level design. So chapter 4 is going to be Hell. This is my favorite chapter. I like this chapter because there are really no like fuzzy gimmicks that get introduced. It's just a lot of good platforming and kind of tight skips. A lot of Hell is cycle based, but part of the fun is skipping cycles on levels where it seems kind of hard. There's a skip on the next level that's pretty notorious. I'm going to try it once, but I really don't expect to get it. Yeah. You can, if you tap A really light, you can get underneath that wall, but it's super tricky. It saves about 3 seconds, which, again, doesn't sound like a lot, but for this game at higher levels, it's quite a bit of time. Like, that level has a really cool cycle skip. It's pretty tricky, but we got it. The only thing that I can say about this world that I don't particularly care about is these moving platforms. So there's a good example. These moving platforms are really weird. They don't like to behave in good ways. Like right there, I just kind of just died for no reason, which is really great. But mostly the problem, that actually doesn't happen. I've never seen that before. But the problem I have with them usually is that the hitboxes on them are smaller than they should be. And sometimes if you're landing on the edge, especially going at higher speeds, it's really tricky to jump off of them correctly. Which can be annoying when you're trying to go fast, obviously. I'm gonna try another skip here. Nice. So if you go fast enough, you can just skip that laser. It's pretty tight, but got it there. Another good use of auto jump here. This level is pretty cool. So there's
that's definitely one of the better looking skips.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard to pull off either. So there are these heat-seeking missiles in this world, but they're not quite just regular missiles. They shoot off into little spawnlings when they die. They're obviously a little more hectic than the regular missiles, but again, they're not too bad once you get used to them. Oh, I forgot to mention this. So you'll notice in some worlds, I'm just skipping over certain levels and doing other ones. You only need 17 levels out of the 20 given to unlock the boss. So we try to find like the 17 fastest, depending on, you know, what world you're in and your skill level and your load times to unlock the boss. So when I'm exiting out to the map and skipping seemingly random levels, that's why. This boss is also really difficult. You just have to stand in this spot and jump a couple times, and that's it. So, not much going on here.
Yeah, when you're first playing this, I mean, you're probably not quite aware of that. I mean, you might pick up on it, but at the very first, you'll be like avoiding these, and you're not quite gonna know what to expect. But
yeah, you have to.
Little break.
You have to jump those 3 swipes, and now I can just stand here until the end of the fight.
Well, this is the part of the run where you're supposed to hydrate.
Right, which I'm going to do with some extremely nutritional Mountain Dew Code Red at 7 in the morning.
Oh, yes.
Definitely not a degenerate.
Never.
So another cool thing, well, not really cool, kind of annoying actually, but at the end of that fight you saw that the screen kind of faded to white. For some reason that effect persists until it like runs out. So you'll notice that I went into the first level here, it'll just be white, and it's kind of obnoxious because you can't see anything, but not a big deal. Just kind of a quirk about the game. So this is chapter 5. Whoops. This is probably the hardest chapter. I don't know about casually, but as far as speedrunning is concerned, it's the hardest chapter for any percent. The final chapter ended up just not being very long, and so it's not that bad. But this level, or this chapter, just has a lot of stuff that the levels are very long. You have these repulsors, which are really finicky, and there's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong. So typically, this is like the least favorite worlds among speedrunners. So these repulsors are pushing me back. Unlike the fans, they're omnidirectional, so it doesn't matter what side of them you're on, you're just gonna get pushed away. And the closer you are, the harder they fling you, so sometimes it can be useful, but a lot of times they're just trolling you. You also have these switch blocks, which are sort of like key blocks, except that they come back. Also, the aesthetic for this world is just kind of gray and like bleh, so another reason I don't like it that much. That was kind of close. Again, here we're going to exit out and skip a really long auto-scroller level. There are also these zombie Meat Boy guys that follow you around and are very inconsistent and not fun. Like that, oh, that guy doesn't always follow you. Oh, nice, I got the good cycle. Or not really cycle, but I got them all to follow me, which is really good. This level, there's a key in the middle that we're waiting. Oh, that's bad. That we're waiting for fall down, so we just kind of. The saw on that side is a little lower for whatever reason, so you can bait them over there and just kill them while we're waiting for the key. That level looks pretty cool. Kind of tricky to do, but not too bad. Like that's where we use a repulsor to our advantage there. This we just go over the entire level. It's very important I don't hit that warp zone because it takes ages to get out of it. Only place in the any % run where you can really hit a warp zone on accident. At least I think. That level is a run killer, but we got through it. No problem. Here we skip a bunch of keys the game wants us to get, and we just kind of go out the outside of the level here. The jump at the end's kind of tricky because you have to go way out and come back in a precise way, but not bad. We're gonna skip a lot here too. This level is supposed to be like 30 seconds long, but we're gonna do it in like 3. There we go. Oops, clip that corner. This level is just, you just gotta wait for all the key blocks to unlock, and you gotta, it's kind of tricky casually because you're not used to how the repulsors move, but it's not really that bad. So here's the fun part of the run. This boss is entirely RNG. He can go in as little as 3 cycles, but there's really no cap to how long it can take, so hopefully we get 3. But yeah, we just kind of have to wait for him to jump into these saws. Really good boss. Definitely doesn't kill any runs, ever. I think that was 5. Average is 7, I think. 5 to 7.
I think I've heard 7.
Both my practice runs I did were extremely bad Larrys. Yeah, this is going on like just bad luck here. Anything more than like 7.
Marathon Larry.
Yeah. Anything more than 7 is unfortunate. There we go. So now we're going into the final world. The final world's a little bit different. There are only 5 levels as opposed to 20, and you can't skip any. You just have to do them all. And they're very long. There's really no... There are a couple skips we can do, but there's nothing that just like cuts levels in half. Actually, that's not really true. This level, we're supposed to get a bunch of keys that I'm just not going to. I'm just going to go around the outside and do a little tricky jump here. So this jump is very finicky because that block I'm jumping on is like a half block, and they have really weird physics properties that don't like to behave. The next level is cycle based. It's got a lot of moving platforms. I'm gonna try to do a skip to save a cycle there once I do this entire level over again. Whoops. This is awkward. This is also the longest level in the run, and I died on it. There we go. Not the level you want to die on. Oh, okay. Ugh, well, didn't get that. A little bit of safety strat there. I auto jump there just to make sure I get the get onto that platform. If I do that backup. This level looks tricky, but it's really not that bad. That jump looks really hard. Alright, so final level before the boss here. This requires a kind of precise skip at the end. Basically, we skip a key that we have to get, or that we normally have to get. And it's the way we do it's kind of precise, but hopefully I can do it here. There we go. Alright. So final boss. This is just an avoidance fight. He shoots missiles at you, and you have to get to the very end. It's not super bad. Really, it's an auto-scroller like the first boss. You kind of just have to get to the end in whatever way works for you. Beyond that, you don't really have to go fast at all. We usually just get outside these saw towers here, and then we can kind of take it at our own pace. Obviously, you're not supposed to be able to get outside of them, but you can pretty easily. So you're meant to wait for him, or he follows you in here, and then you open this bridge under him. But when you're standing on buttons, you have weird invincibility properties. So we just get here really fast, stand on this button, and it can't really kill us. In theory. Sometimes with a bad frame rate it can. So time's going to come up at the end of this escape sequence. So there's an end trigger that extends a little beyond this wall we're going to abuse. And time.
Hooray!
Well, that was Super Meat Boy. It's a pretty okay game. I'm just going to let credits roll. My name is Fimbz. This has been great. Thanks for having me. Shoutouts to Sparkover for helping with commentary.
I said a couple sentences.
Yay!
Very nice, Rod.
Thanks for watching, everyone.